Happy New Year, everyone. It's Todd Dills again with Overdrive Radio and popping on here before we get this episode for January 5th, 2023, fully going. As for some of you, this one will well be familiar. Truth is, I've been out of the office all week and thought to re-air this talk with last year's Owner-Operator of the Year, Glen Horack, this week. It also features his wife and team operator, Karla. Because, well, in it, Horack emphasizes necessary downtimes, savings, every single moment of any owner-operator's career. No doubt well necessary in times like the present, with economic conditions ahead looking less than stellar, let's say, than they could. As I noted in last week's Year in Review podcast, almost half of all of you have indicated a pessimistic outlook for the year. Horack was thinking much the same as early as last June when we spoke for this edition of the podcast. Keep in mind that timing throughout as you listen, as I'm going to re-air it as it played in September last year. Horack's millions of miles of experience speak for themselves, though. So, let's get to it.
If you're going to do it, get your ducks in a row before you do it and stick with them. I mean, that's the biggest thing is, don't try to live on a shoestring.
Regular Overdrive Radio listeners will well recognize they are the voice of our Owner-Operator of the Year, Glen Horack, Elkland, Missouri, with a simple piece of advice for those who venture into trucking as an owner-operator. In this part 2 of our talk with Horack, we'll hear a great deal more from him about just what he means in that regard. Coming off a good 2 years for freight, speaking late in the month of June, Horack noted the cyclical nature of the trucking business.
At least once every 10 years there's going to be a downtick.
Best to be prepared for that. Always. No matter what the current situation looks like. I'm Todd Dills, your host as usual for this edition of Overdrive Radio for September 2, 2022, just ahead of the annual Labor Day holiday. Horack, in a team operation with his wife and now longtime business partner, Karla, is looking forward, no doubt, to enjoying some time at home with family and friends with the big Sam Biggs Memorial Bike Show and Poker Run. A benefit to research into childhood cancers like the one that took the life of a close associate's 7-year-old cousin and inspired the annual event 9 years ago now. It's a big family and community affair today, that's sure.
We all pretty much do everything. We organize it, we work it, we participate in it.
We'll hear more about the value owner-operator Horack gleans from his now more than 3-decade relationship with his leasing partner in Prime Incorporated.
When you got a big company behind you, it's a lot easier to get stuff done.
Right.
As far as repairs, and, I can go into a dealership as a single operator. They don't care when they get to me.
First, though, we'll dive into Horack's very early days, just starting out after his time serving in the Marines, with Charles Litteris 3-truck C&T Trucking.
When you have a diesel emergency, you don't have time to wait around for 911. Instead, call your Lifeline. Howe's Diesel Lifeline, the only emergency rescue product to re-liquefy gel fuel and de-ice frozen fuel filters without the use of harmful alcohol. Always safe to use, you can pour it directly into your fuel filters without wasting time mixing it with additional diesel fuel. So this winter, if you find yourself stuck in a bind, skip the tow. Get yourself back on the road fast with Howe's Diesel Lifeline. For more information, visit howesproducts.com.
So just who was owner-operator Glen Horack growing up? Was he the kind of kid who knew from a very young age that he was headed into a Class 8 over-the-road?
Not really. I really had no desire to drive a truck. I mean, I always liked driving, big vehicles and everything.
Right.
I was driving a trash truck when I got out of the military, and a buddy of mine was running a trucking company, and I needed a job. I went over and basically I made 3 trips around the parking lot and backed into 3 different doors and been on my own ever since.
Right. Who is your friend with the trucking company? What was his name?
It was Charles Litterist. He had 3 trucks of his own, and he was running a trucking company for somebody else where he had his trucks leased on it.
Okay.
That was KPH Transportation. They've been out of business for years.
Okay.
His company was C&T Trucking.
And so you started in one of his 3 trucks there?
1976 International Cab Over. I worked for him we were leased to 4 or 5 different companies when I worked for him. Like I said, I drove that cab over, and I drove for him for like 2 years, and then I went to work for KLM out of Mississippi.
Right.
And I drove for them for almost 6 years.
What made you? Where'd you purchase your first truck or lease your first truck?
It was in 1992 from Prime.
Okay.
I had talked to a couple Prime drivers at truck stop one day when we were sitting there, and they were telling me, how things worked over there with their lease and purchase and stuff. And I was young. Well, sounds like you can make a lot better money there than I can here, so I'll give it a shot. And been at it ever since. When you got a big company behind you, it's a lot easier to get stuff done.
Right.
As far as repairs, and, I can go into a dealership as a single operator. They don't care when they get to me. So you got somebody that brings them, 20, 30 trucks a week or a month. They're a little more cooperative. And I have never had any desire to have more than one truck. Because nobody takes care of your equipment like you take care of your equipment. I've seen so many people. Because my philosophy is if you can either own 1 truck or 10 trucks and be profitable. Anything in between is going to be tough. You only got 3 or 4 trucks. If one of them breaks down, then you got 3 trucks paying for 4. 2 of them break down, you got 2 trucks paying for 4, and I have made awesome money from that. I mean, I've had to bust my butt to do it, but they've always had to pay me to do it. When I went to work for KLM, I thought I'd found a home forever. But after about 5 years, things kind of went in the toilet there, and I was making less money after 5 years than I was making the first year I worked there. And I mean, all my working career, I've always been, I'm always looking for something better. But, I came here at Prime in 92 and I left in 95 and back in 96. And I wish I'd have never left because I know a lot of people that drive trucks. I don't know anybody that can make the kind of money. Well, I mean, there's people out there that do. Yeah. But I mean, on a large scale, as many drivers as Prime has, that drivers make the kind of money they make at Prime. We've got, I think, 1,700 company drivers, and all the rest are lease operators. Got almost 9,000 drivers now.
You got a huge brokerage division with a lot of dedicated carriers there.
Yeah. Yep. And there's a lot of guys over there that only got 3 and 4 trucks, but they've got the big company behind them too. But if you're actually out on your own and 3 truck, boy, it's hard to make it. We get huge fuel discounts and everything else over here. I mean, a buddy of mine, he posted a receipt on there the other day. He bought fuel in California with $6.99 a gallon at the pump.
What did he pay?
He probably paid right at 6.
With discounts like those, it's easy to see the benefits of the buying power a large company affords smaller businesses like the Horacks, those that would stake their success on the connection. Some owners out there occasionally tell me that leasing to larger companies is going the way of the dinosaur in trucking. Clearly, it's not the case as yet. Nonetheless, I asked Glenn then what he might say if he had a single piece of advice for newly minted trucking business owners coming up in this day and age. There's plenty that can be gleaned from his story alone. In part 1 of this 2-part podcast, we detailed his diligent maintenance emergency set-aside savings strategy, for instance. We've just heard him speak to the value of partnerships that he sees with his own at Prime. Yet, when it comes to direct advice, here's what he had to say.
As far as the owner-operator part is, if you're going to do it, get your ducks in a row before you do it and stick with them. I mean, that's the biggest thing is, don't try to live on a shoestring. Yeah. Because just one breakdown can put you out of business. The biggest thing is kind of like I do, put so much aside for your repairs, and when bad times come, in trucking there, it's an up and down thing forever. We've basically had 2 real good years as far as freight wise because, it got behind so bad. But I'd say, at least once every 10 years, there's going to be a downtick. And you don't have a lot of choices anymore. You're going to have to run newer equipment because you're, doing specialized in certain states because, for long you won't be able to take some of this old. You already can't take a lot of it to California. It's a tough deal right now because, I mean, at some point fuel's going to have to change. It's probably going to be about 2 more years, but if you're charging the surcharge that you need to charge, like I said, I actually make money off surcharge.
Yeah, what kind of fuel mileage is your surcharge based on, and what kind of fuel mileage are you getting in that 579?
I think Prime's get their surcharge based on 7 miles a gallon. I get about 8.7.
That's substantial.
Plus, with Prime's discounts, I mean, it's different all over the country. If you watch where you buy fuel, can even make that greater too. I think that's one of the biggest challenges that true owner-operators have is they don't get the discounts that the big companies get. I mean, there's, Love's and a few other places got some programs that they, if you factor with them and stuff with your discounts and stuff.
Yeah.
But, to get the discount that Prime get, I mean, I'd say in most places we get $1 a gallon off on price.
There are, in fact, a variety of resources for independents relative to fuel discounts. The National Association of Small Trucking Companies fuel card program is well known, and we routinely hear good things about it. There's the Mudflap app for a variety of independent stops and plenty of other fuel card programs for major chains and others, like Love's program Horack mentioned. As noted, with Horack speaking in late June, as fuel continued to rise before falling some in more recent weeks in most places, Horack had this to say about his own discounts.
But it seems right now that the actual discount is shrinking, though. They send us a message every day on our app, letting us know what fuel's going to do at midnight.
Yeah.
It'll go down for 1 or 2 days, then it'll go up for the next 5 days in a row. And it goes up much quicker than it goes down.
Yeah. Sometimes you've got to laugh to keep from crying, right? Fortunately, at least, dynamics changed for fuel in the intervening weeks. The diesel prices certainly remain, no doubt, elevated, above $5 per gallon in a national average in the most recent week. The latest hike came alongside the big fire at BP's big Chicago area refinery that shut it down temporarily. Let's hope those supplies get back rolling to normal levels quickly. When I talked with Glen's co-owner, operator, and wife, Karla, for the first part of this podcast, released last week, she mentioned a real acumen for cooking in the truck, something that's helped the pair run an even leaner operation in more ways than one. Karla's cooking methods and recipes are diverse, though her in-cab cooking equipment is just a single, quite versatile piece that Glen describes here.
She's got a rice cooker, and she can cook anything needs to cook right in that. She she can fry, she can boil, she can, just about anything she needs to do in that. We had an Instapot on the truck, but it was so big that it just got in the way. One of the drawbacks of trucks is refrigerator space. If you're running hard, you don't have time to go to the grocery store every day.
It can be difficult to scout out where you can get into a good grocery store, right?
Yes, it can.
Yeah.
There's more and more places out there that don't allow trucks on their parking lots.
Yeah.
And the bad part of it is our wonderful drivers have done it to ourselves. They go in and trash the place, throw their trash out the window. And it's only, it's probably only 5% of the truckers out here that are like that. That's the 5% that shows up. Plus, with the thefts that are going on out here now, you know, it used to be, but you could drop your trailer at the truck stop, bobtail over to, you know, and get whatever you needed. Well, nowadays, you drop your trailer at the truck stop, you might come back and it's not going to be there.
The CargoNet cargo theft recording firm just this week alerted members and folks in the trucking media, too, to be watchful this weekend, with the Labor Day holiday upcoming. A time when extended down periods for many drivers can mean more trucks sitting idle in a variety of places. They noted historically that thefts recorded the Friday before Labor Day and the Tuesday after were the most common over the last 5 years. In a full 20% of those theft events, the truck or trailer was last known to be left secure on Friday, and almost a third of all theft complaints were then reported on the Tuesday after Labor Day. CargoNet also reported a troubling trend not related to cargo at all, but to the guts of trucks and tractors' computer systems. Thieves across the country have been targeting the quite expensive and hard-to-find truck electronic control modules. They expected a spike in such activity this Labor Day weekend too, so be advised. The rise in cargo and equipment theft through the decades has been a detriment to Horack's full enjoyment of the road in other ways too. As he notes, and as his wife and partner in the business noted in part 1 of this podcast, it's limited opportunity to enjoy the various sites around the country the pair might otherwise have visited. Regular listeners will recall that Glen sold Karla on trucking with a CDL herself in part on their ability to see the country together.
Which that's one of the biggest things I miss about the way the trucking has changed. Like she was saying earlier, you know, I went and visited a lot of tourist style stuff when I was running by myself because you could do that. You could drop your trailer and then do bobtail, where you can't do it anymore.
Perhaps as a result, Horacks have been making their time at home in Elkland, Missouri, making it count for more. A big part of that for Glen for the last 9 years has been the Sam Biggs Memorial Bike Show and Poker Run, a benefit for research into childhood cancers named after a young cousin of a fellow Prime owner-operator, and fellow owner-operator of the year, as you'll hear. The 9th annual Sam Biggs event is fast approaching too, set for next weekend after Labor Day is done this year, and launching from an American Legion location in Springfield, Missouri, with a separate event in Illinois as well.
Yeah, the one in Missouri is the week after Labor Day, and then the one we have another one up in Illinois the following weekend. We've been playing with that for years because the first 3 or 4 years we had it the second week of August.
Okay.
And we got rain every year. Kind of moving around trying to find a sweet spot, and it seems like beginning of September usually works out pretty good for us.
Before the big snowstorms and after the summer rains. How did that Sam Biggs run get started, and how much are you involved with it still? In terms of
I'm still involved with it just as much as ever, if not more. But a buddy of mine that I've known for years, he drives for Prime too. But his cousins, I'm not sure his first or second cousin, but their son died at 7 years old of childhood cancer. And actually, Thomas's daughter, they were 12. She was 12, and her friend was 12, and they used to go on rides with their dads on the bike.
Okay.
And they just come up with the idea, well, we're going for this ride. Why don't we try to raise some money for, research or whatever? And that's how it started. They started first year in Springfield. It was just basically a ride.
Yeah.
People donated, and then we changed it into bike show and poker run. And it's grown every year. We moved locations this year. We used to do it in the parking lot of a bar, and we've outgrown that. So now we're doing it. There's an American Legion post there in town that we're using this year.
Glen Horack's partner on the benefit bike show and poker run is fellow owner-operator Thomas Miller. As noted, with a storied pedigree himself, in 2015 he won the Owner-Operator of the Year award in Overdrive and TCA's joint program. The Sam Biggs event is more than just these two owner-operators' baby, though. It's a Big Ten affair from all involved, from family and friends and the community at large.
We've got probably a dozen people. our wives and friends. We got friends and stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we all pretty much do everything. We organize it. We work it. We participate in it. I've got a 2018 Indian.
Okay.
And I've got a 2016 Victory.
Which one is the one that you ride the most? The Indian?
The Indian. Yeah. Actually, I parked my 2000 Victory because we got rid of our house years ago, and we went and bought a fifth wheel, and we pretty much just stay in it, or we stay at my daughter's house, one or the other. And my Indian, or my Victory, I park in my son's garage. Well, he's got an older Honda. Well, since I parked my bike in his garage, he ain't rode his bike since.
He might be on his way to inheriting that one, as it were.
Yeah. Probably. It's probably been 4 years since I even rode that one. But back when the only reason I got two of them is back when we were doing our dedicated flowers up in Canada. I kept one in Missouri and I kept one down in Florida because we were down there a day and a half every week.
Yeah, you would use it down there when you were off, or take some downtime. Yeah,
I mean, ride all year down there. But I'm not gonna lie to anybody. I'm a fair weather motorcycle rider. I've ridden in the cold a couple times. That's not for me.
There's a big thanks to Glen and Karla Horack for so much of their time, to Howes for making it happen as a sponsor, and to you for hanging through to the end. Overdrive Radio is a production of Overdrive, the voice of the American trucker. It's edited and produced by me, Todd Dills, with the acoustic guitar and other support of trucker songwriter and Overdrive contributor Long Haul Paul Marhofer. The theme is Legend of the Snake Man by Marhofer himself, featuring the guitar work of Travis, the Snake Man himself, Wamek, Terry Two Socks Richardson on bass, keys by Tishomingo Jim Whitehead, and on drums, Mr. Andrew Marshall. The podcast is backed up further by Overdrive's own news editor Matt Cole, social media coordinator Holly Young, and executive editor Alex Lockett.